Me again, testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Awesome. Sorry about that, and thank you for the pause. Okay, I'll resume. All right. The rate study takes into account 3 financial health criteria. Testing. Oh, good. I don't want to keep hearing my voice over and over again. All right, here we go. So there are 3 financial criteria that are held in this rate study. The first is to maintain general operating cash reserves of at least 75% of operating expenses. That equals 9 months of operating expenses. That criteria is based off of guidelines that are provided by the Government Finance Officers Association, and it takes into account your individual circumstance as well in coming up with that 9 months of operating expenses. Second, that a minimum of $950,000 shall be kept in restricted and designated reserves to cover the SRF State Revolving Fund loan reserve requirement of $439,000 and at least $500,000 for capital expenses. As I'd mentioned before, that SRF loan comes with certain obligations. This is one of those obligations that absolutely must be met. That is your only actual restriction with your funds, but you also have designated funds, and your designated funds cover capital purposes and also operating as well. So to have at least $500,000 in capital expenses is very prudent should you have some kind of emergency situation, or perhaps you're working on a capital project and there's a cost overrun on it, and you can cover that hopefully with having at least $500,000 in reserve. And then each year that the net operating income, so that's your gross revenues minus your operating expenses and debt service, will exceed the debt service by at least 1.25. And that will keep the city in really good standing for 2 reasons. One, if you ever need to go out and get another loan for some reason, the state will be looking for this. They might be a little kinder, but certainly if you ever had to go out for any kind of revenue bonds or general obligation bonds, they would require to see 1.25. All right, so a month ago, I presented 3 different fee level alternatives for the wastewater rates. And last time, alternative 1 was annual increases of 5.75%. And at that level, that was to cover depreciation, about 15% of depreciation, which is what you currently have. But it did raise rates 5.75% a year. So based on your input, I made alternative 1 annual increases of 4%, which was also presented. I had also presented annual increases at 2%, and you'd asked to see the results at 3%. And I'm going to just explain them a little bit better. Shauna, can you go back? No. All right. So in alternative 1, this does stop collecting for system rehabilitation, but you have accumulated sufficient cash reserves in the fund. You're in a good position currently. So no additional cash is accumulated for future repairs, but your total cash balance is projected to increase between 400 and 500,000, partly depending on the number of new connections, but also largely because of your state reimbursements that are coming back for projects you've been outlaying capital for. Alternative 2 at 3%, again, there's nothing being collected for system rehabilitation, but your cash balance will remain about the same between where it was at the end of fiscal year 2023 and at the end of the 5-year period. So you've got that cash coming back from the state reimbursements. You've got some connection fees coming in. So that's why you end up at about the same cash balance. Alternative 3, this is at 2%. At this level, you're not even fully funding the revenue requirement, and you will be drawing down on your cash reserves to pay for repairs. So that's the distinguishing features between those 3 alternatives. It really comes down to that system rehabilitation, and then how much your cash balances will weather not collecting any more for system rehabilitation of that 5-year period. Okay. This graph shows the projected revenue requirement that's in gray and the increased rates revenue projection in green. You can see the line going across shows the line with the circles is the amount of revenue at the current rate levels. And currently it's not quite meeting the revenue requirement. So the first year increase, this is at 4%, that would get you to meeting your revenue requirement. And then, sorry, I misspoke there. Sorry. You are meeting your revenue requirement in fiscal year 2024. It's the green bars which we should be looking at here. And then that increases at 4% each year. And so in some years, you would collect a little bit more in revenues than you're projected to expend. And then in another year, you might collect a little bit less. But overall of that 5-year period, at the 4% level, you would collect for that revenue requirement amount. Whereas in alternatives 2 and 3, you don't. Alternative 2, you still end up with about the same cash balances because you've got the state reimbursements coming back in and some connection fees. And in alternative 3, you will draw down on some reserves. This graph is not particularly helpful. It just shows a 4% increase each year at alternative 1. I have a better graph coming up. This graph shows the projected cash balances for the wastewater fund. At the end of fiscal year 2025, you can see the cash balances going down. This is largely because of those state funded projects and the cash flow, because they are very large dollar amounts for these projects. The estimated timing of outlay and reimbursements, that's causing the cash balance to dip by the end of fiscal year 2025. And then you see it go up. One other thing you might see in this graph kind of causes you to think would be the green. The green is the general operating cash. And you see that declining from fiscal year 24 to 25. It's just an accounting thing. So the way I did the financial modeling, if there was more than 9 months of cash in the operating fund, I moved it out of the operating fund and into the designated funds for both capital and additional operating monies. So you're not actually losing money in the operating cash, but it's switching from green to blue because it's becoming designated. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Yes. The green is the general operating cash. So we want to make sure there's always at least 9 months of operating costs in that. The blue is restricted or designated. So restricted, that's just the $439,000 for the SRF loan, plus additional monies for capital expenses, and it's been moved out of the general operating fund into the designated reserves. And the yellow is the debt service reserve. That's actually your truly restricted reserve. So blue is restricted or designated. The reason for the labeling difference there is the city calls it restricted, but it's not restricted in the legal sense. The only truly restricted money is your yellow debt service reserve. So it's a terminology thing, but my apologies, I might have confused you on that a little bit. Okay. And this graph shows the historical cash balances of the fund and the projected. So you can see in the last few years that the total cash has been accumulating. That's because in your rates, you did have money being set aside for system rehabilitation. So it's done what the rate model had projected 5 years ago. You've saved, put more money aside. And then you can see in fiscal years 24 and 25, you're drawing down on that. And then it goes back up. This graph is helpful, but I'll read out the colors to you. The dark color is alternative one. So at a 4% increase, the cash balances would increase to that dark bar. At 3%, that's the slightly lighter color in the middle of the triple bars, and then the light color is at 2%. What I really want to emphasize from this graph, though, is that blue line. So at the beginning of fiscal year 2024, what your cash balances were. 2025, you have the dip because of the projects that are going on. But by the end of the 5-year period, it's projected to have about the same in cash under alternative 2 at 3% as you did at the beginning of this time period. And finally, this graph shows the actual rates. This is for one EDU, so a single family home. Currently pays $143.07 a month. With a 2% increase, that would go up to $145.93. 3% go to $147.36. And at 4%, it go up to $148, and my eyes fail me, 78, I think, cents. But you can see over the 5-year period where the rates would go up to for one EDU under each of the 3 alternatives. And this comparison graph was shared with you last month too. It shows communities of about the same size as Colfax, so cities of about the same size. And it also includes some communities that are regional to here. So for example, Lake of the Pines is Nevada County wastewater system. Lake Wildwood is a Nevada County wastewater system, as is Cascade Shores, which is the very highest one that you see on the left. And then some of these other ones about the same size, City of Arnold, Sutter Creek, for example. So for a city of this size, Colfax is lying in sort of mid to higher range of wastewater bills. Okay, so I'm going to walk through what would be the next steps after you've had your discussion, after I finish this presentation. Here tonight, this is the final draft report presentation. What we are looking for tonight is the direction from council to move forward with noticing to all of the customers about the potential maximum wastewater rates that they might be paying over the next 5 years. I want to emphasize again, this is a notice of maximum rates. You're not setting it tonight. There would be a public hearing. We're thinking May 22nd is the date for the public hearing. And upon close of the public hearing, that's when you would actually make that decision, what the rates are. So those notices will go out. There has to be at least a 45-day period of time for customers to receive that notice before the public hearing. In the meantime, you had directed that we hold a public workshop and invite the community. And I would give a presentation, and together with staff, we would answer questions from the community. We picked May 1st for that date. So we do want to talk about whether May 1st works for you, if you think that's a good date or not. Uh-huh. And we're thinking 6 p.m. here. So, the work? Okay, good. If you do have a quorum, then city will have to notice it as a public meeting. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. And then upon close of the public hearing, May 22nd, you would state in your resolution the effective date of the rates, and you'd want that to coincide with your fiscal year. Makes the most sense. Okay. I do have a few notes on customers' rights, which I will really elaborate on at the public workshop. Would you like me to elaborate on that right now or hold it for the workshop? Yeah, I think that's a. Yes. Actually, in the notice that we have drafted with the city, we've included the different rates. So the public is being advised that you are considering from 2% to 4%. All right, so Shannon, do you want to just go forward? I think that really concludes it. I just want to check there wasn't anything else on here. Again, we've already noted that, and that's fine. Yeah, and I'll discuss this at the workshop. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank
So
you for
I
the
have a
presentation.
question. That's
Questions?
okay. So assuming that we were to adopt the 4% rate, and obviously we have our annual review period every year, and we decide, for example, next year we're doing the review and we say, wow, we're doing fantastic. We want to either suspend rate increases or potentially even decrease the rate. So in that scenario, let's assume that we were to decrease the rate by 2%. In the following year, let's say things don't go so well. We run into a wildfire or any other scenario that causes major repair needs and depletes our funds. We would not then have the right to come up to what would have been a net 4%. We would only be able to come up 4% from the place we left the prior year.
No,
We would be able to come up 6% in order to meet that net 4%.
Yes, well, you would calculate, you have a schedule
Right.
of what the rates are at those different percentages. That amount is the amount you can raise it to the next year.
Okay,
So don't think so much about the percentages. Think
right. So
about-
it's just going to set a baseline that we're able to come up to,
Yes.
and that's a dollar amount, not a percentage amount.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that we were not going to put ourselves at risk by
Yeah.
not maintaining our cash flow.
Yeah, so year by year, you're gonna look at it, and if you approve 4%, then you have up to 4% each year to look at.
Which when you say it in the form of 4%,
Yeah.
it's, it's either gross 4% or net 4%. So I wanted to clarify
Right.
that, we could come up to that gross point or that net point, not just the gross 4% from wherever our baseline was.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
good. I'm happy with that then.
Okay, thank you again. Any other questions?
We're looking for direction. I think we also ask for some public comment.
Any public comment?
Please come up to the mic so that everybody at home can hear you too.
Not a comment, but a question for clarification. I missed the discussion at the last meeting, but I did read the packet. This is a 5-year plan, and I think all the figures are in dollars of the current year without any kind of inflation calculation built in to the figures we're seeing. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
There is inflation built in, so all the project costs that the city provided us with, that 1.6 million. Well, I inflated it so that the total is 1.6 million. So yes, inflation is included, plus inflation is included in the operating costs as well.
Any other comments? If not,
Do we have a motion to move forward on this from our city council?
So this is a presentation. I don't see anything for action here.
Well, they're looking for direction to move forward, I think.
Yeah.
With the noticing.
A workshop and.
So I think we have general consensus to proceed.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Let's go ahead and proceed with the workshop.
And the May 1st on the, is a good date for everyone.
Yeah.
Just confirming.
Okay.
And if you don't mind us asking, would staff mind sending out a calendar invite? I live by those.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Item 6, public hearing. There are no public hearings scheduled, therefore we move on to item 7, public comment. Any public may make a up to 5-minute comment on anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have anybody who wants to make a public comment?
We have a special public comment tonight from Andy Fecco, the General Manager of Placer County Water Agency is going to be speaking to the drum spalding issues that PG&E is having.
Before we get started on public comment, can I please ask that we waive the public comment timer for this evening?
You can do that with a consensus of the council.
Okay, we can do that with the consent of the council. Do we have a consent of the council?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I hear a positively. I hear a
Yes.
Yep.
yes.
All right, cool.
Cons-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think NID's here as well. Maybe she can join me in just a moment. Thank you for the invitation, members of the council. The drum spalding system is owned by Pacific Gas and Electric Company and is a vital water supply for all of Western Placer County. They're currently experiencing on that system an infrastructure failure at Spalding Powerhouse that's significantly affecting water deliveries, or will affect water deliveries to both Nevada Irrigation District and Placer County Water Agency. And the reason I'm here tonight is because you're going to probably hear, if you haven't already begun to hear from residents about what's going to happen at Rollins Lake, and I want NID to be able to address that. But Rollins is going to be the lifeline for water supply in West Placer, at least probably through June, until the infrastructure is fixed on the upper part of the system and water can begin to move down from places like Fordyce Lake and Spalding Lake. And so really we're doing our best as both NID and PCWA to manage the water supply situation by reserving as much water in Rollins as possible for NID in the upstream part of PCWA service area. And then for the lower part of our service area, roughly from Auburn down, we'll pump water from the American River at the old Auburn Dam site where we have a pump station. And can get water to our sort of extreme West Placer County customers. So the situation is PG&E is currently working on the infrastructure problem. They're very focused on it. It is a problem that they've had before at this location. I invited PG&E. They weren't able to make it on short notice. I'm sorry, and they send their regards. They are working to fix that problem as soon as possible. I think Rollins is going to begin to drop here pretty significantly. And maybe, do you want to come up and just talk a little bit about that? Colleague at NID.
Good evening. I'm Monica Reyes, the Director of Recreation for Nevada Irrigation District. And as of right now, there is no water except for natural runoff running into Scotts Flat or Rollins. Scotts Flat is going to have better life than Rollins because we do have a lot of natural runoff. We're kind of in a hole surrounded by a mountain. So we've got a lot of water coming in. Rollins, on the other hand, once the heat comes and our irrigation season starts April 15th, we're going to have some issues. We did have a board meeting today and we did declare an emergency storage resolution. So we are asking all of our customers to voluntarily take a 20% decrease. It's not a mandatory. We're starting little just to say, hey, can you just do this for us? We are not accepting new irrigation services, and we're not issuing any increases. We are asking customers if they take a decrease on their irrigation services, we will get them back to their normal usage the next year. So we're hoping that with the weather, that will get us to this June mark. And with the conservation that we're asking for, that we can get there, but you know, really everything is up in the air. If PG&E gets everything done by June, we will be okay, but if not, Rollins will drop significantly. I did get some numbers. I don't know if you're interested, but we kind of took the very conservative, if nothing is going to work in our favor kind of approach. Right now, Rollins is about 65,000 acre feet. By June 8th, just depending on weather and other, resources and usage, it could get down to about 39,000 acre feet, which is still doable. There's still going to be water. Our boat launches will still be able to, we'll still have a little bit of recreation going on. But by the end of June, we're looking at about 22,000 acre feet. And with all the sediment in Rollins Lake, it's actually about, you could take out about, worst case scenario is going to be about 11,000 acre feet in Rollins at that point. So if it does go past June, obviously NID is going to put some mandatory restrictions on water usage. But I had heard through the grapevine and through social media that a lot of people were having some social media just does us all in. We were having some comments about especially long ravine boat slips. We are not going to start the season with anybody on the boat slips this year, just because we don't know what it's going to look like. And we do not want to get anybody stuck in mud. We're still going to have our boat launches open. We're still going to have recreation. We're still going to have camping. But for now, we're going to hold off. So we have actually, my park rangers have actually touched base with all their customers as far as their slip holders. And we are verbally talking to them. We're not putting anything out on social media. We're not sending out emails. We want to tell the same story, and we want people to understand what we're saying. And at Orchard Springs, we've had 3 people give up their slips for the season. They'll get them back next year, but they're out of towners, and they'd much rather, not have to deal with it. And then so far at Long Ravine, we've had 6 or 7 we've got 6 for sure, one that's kind of thinking about it, to give up their slips for the year. Everyone else is gonna wait it out. And if we can get them on in June, we will definitely be prorating the slip amounts and giving people some refunds, but that's what it looks like. Do you have any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
When you're talking about getting down to 11,000 acre feet from, what did you say, 60 some?
Yeah, we're at 65 right now.
What our gold mining history up there, and what is probably in the sediment at the bottom of that reservoir? Is that an issue? Mercury, for example?
Yeah. We haven't
just
really,
don't know.
yeah, we just don't know. I know that and I wasn't around here in 1977, but I was told today that Rollins got down to 5,000 acre feet.
Wow. The question, nobody has said what the issue is. What is the issue?
Sure. So at Spalding #1 Powerhouse has bypass pipes. There's two issues that are happening. One is strictly related to water supply, which is that a landslide took out the access to the South Yuba Canal that feeds the part of Nevada County that NID relies on for its water supply to the north. That landslide's unlikely to be fixed until September. There's another way to get water to Nevada County, and that is through Spalding #1 Powerhouse. The bypass, the pressure reducing valve bypass on the powerhouse The lining is steel and it's been eroded over the years by water. And the water not only eroded the steel lining, but also the mortar that supports it and a portion of the powerhouse base. And so that lining, the grout that holds it and the foundation they're working on fixing that now. The landslide, the conditions up there do not allow fixing the landslide at the moment. So once the powerhouse is fixed and the liner is redone, which is a project that I'm told by PG&E they understand because they've done it before, then water access can be restored to NID's portion and they can stop their withdrawal on Rollins. We can start drafting again. And so the system gets patched together enough where the draw on Rollins is reduced, and water supplies are probably not made whole, but very close to. And so, yeah, it's simply a powerhouse infrastructure fix inside the powerhouse. That's the way to get water to those systems.
I just want to thank you both for coming this evening. You know, Josh jumped at it when I called and asked him this morning and obviously got in touch with you guys. So thank you for coming. And like you said, social media can be a blessing and a curse because of course, as soon as Rollins sent out their letters to the boat owners on Friday, things went nuts and the stories got colorful as to what the real one was. So
Exactly.
yes, so I appreciate you guys coming to address it. And this way we kind of have an avenue to say, no, go watch the meeting at this timestamp. It'll explain it to you. And of course, as a council, our concern has to be that if PG&E is slow in getting things repaired, it does have a big economic impact on our community. You know, while Rollins is not technically in city limits, all that traffic going out there is. So it's something we wanted to make sure everybody was well informed as to what was happening. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. So all three parties involved in this are very motivated to get this fixed and we're going to remain motivated on this. We are putting out regular statements on this. We're trying to talk to the media as well. So we're trying to do our communications through official channels. And so you'll be seeing those. We'll make sure that we copy the city manager on those if we put stuff out so that he's got the latest information as well and can pass it on to you.
And Ubinet is a great source. They've been putting out, that's where our press releases go, one of the places anyways. But we did have a great board meeting. There was great discussion. So if you have time, it was today and it is on YouTube. It's got a lot of good information. Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening. Just wanted to let everybody know, remind everybody about the food distribution program that's coming up. Sierra Vista Rec Center. I think it's 55 School Street. Yeah, thank you. And this month is going to be April 2nd. And it's actually the first Tuesday of every month unless we're voting or something happens. And that's anyone that you know that needs the help, make sure you tell them, bring them out because we're there. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Just a question on the NID and the water source. Does this have any effect on PCWA and for us with any fire protection or our water for our homes and stuff?
So at this time, we don't anticipate any impacts to PCWA customers because we have that backup supply source from the American River that can feed our lower system. And therefore, the amount of water that we have up here can feed this part of the service area. And we can isolate this part of the service area from the lower part. So at the moment, if the planning is correct and June comes through, we don't see a problem. If the problem gets bigger, we're going to have to reevaluate. But what we know right now, we don't see a problem for our upper district, sort of the Alta to Bowman area. We don't see a problem.
And with us, our water is for consumption and irrigation. So that's our first and foremost. Everything else is going to set aside. So, you know, and that goes along with fire protection because that's both the treated and the irrigation as well.
Any other comment from the public? Seeing none, we move on to item 8, council and staff business. Council reports. Sean, can we start with you? Yep. Council reports.
So last Thursday, had the Pioneer Community Energy meeting. We kicked off our strategic planning process for fiscal year 2024 to 2027. We approved our new energy load management standard compliance plan and are starting a kickoff on another great money saving program for our customers for heating and air conditioning tune-up program. So I'm trying to help customers save money everywhere we can and save energy. And also Pioneer put out a notice a couple days ago saying that we've had people walking around to homes in the community identifying themselves as Pioneer customers or Pioneer employees and trying to talk to people at their homes. Pioneer does not send out anyone to your home. We don't have any field representatives. If you need any information or anybody comes to your door asking for Pioneer, please report them. And tomorrow night is the Placer Sierra Fire Safe Council meeting, 6 o'clock here in the council chambers. All right, that's all.
Great. Nothing to report.
Last week was our SACOG meeting and we actually did it on site in Woodland. I did not know they actually have a farmers school out there. Did you know that? I didn't know that. They have a school you can actually go to and they will teach you how to be a farmer because of course, most farmers are drastically aging and retiring and not many people get into it. It's kind of cool to go over there and get to see it. So yeah, we got to hang out in Woodland for a little bit, took a drive. It was interesting. The chamber had their volunteer mixer last week as well. And it was there was actually really good turnout. I want to say there was like 15, 20 people there, which is pretty good for something like that. So they did a good job on turning that out. And then the community center, Sierra Vista, had their board meeting last night and they are extending the application window for board members till the 31st. So you do have till the 31st to get your board application in. Does that make sense? Your board member application in. And then once they do the interviews, they do it's a voting process. So anybody who is a member of the Sierra Vista Center can then vote for the board members in their positions. And it's only $25 for an individual and $35 for a family. So you can get these sheets through the community center and they do have a new office clerk Monday, Wednesday, and Friday who's in there for a couple hours. So you can get them. So.
Okay, thank you, Trinity.
I'm going to pass it back to Sean real quick.
Thanks. Sorry, I had one more thing. Also, last Thursday, I attended the Parks and Rec Commission meeting at Placer County, and the Park and Rec Commission approved the additional funds for the Colfax skate park. So since Ty wasn't here tonight, I wanted to make sure I got that announcement out. So great news. Hopefully we'll be seeing a revised plan back really soon for that.
Yeah, no problem. I don't have a whole lot to report tonight because I'm a slacker who went on vacation. So I've been out of town for a little bit. Did have a PCTPA meeting this morning. We went over on-demand route service and things like that. But overall, it was a fairly quick meeting. Not a whole lot of significantly intriguing items for the public today. But just touching on what Sean mentioned a moment ago about Pioneer Community Energy and these folks going door to door. I actually had a young man come to my door a couple weeks back. And when I answered the door, he said he was from the NEM program. And to most people, that means I work for PG&E in the solar department. But what this young man didn't know is that that's where I work. And so we had a really good conversation. But I would say, if you have anybody coming to your door, especially if they're talking about selling you something, please be very careful. Don't assume that they work for a government agency or a major utility. Ask to see some form of identification if they do assert that. And feel free to call those companies. Make sure you call PG&E, call Pioneer, validate what they're saying to you, because unfortunately, I've had to help several people in the community who found themselves with, a $75,000 solar system that they can't afford, that they don't even own. please don't find yourself in that situation. Just make sure you validate who you're talking to and make sure they're licensed and don't get scammed. So anyway, I'll pass that on to Kim.
Can I see your ID?
I can get it for you.
I did not have any official meetings, although I was getting withdrawals, so I attended 2 days ago the Auburn City Council meeting. And really briefly, I'm a masochist. Yeah. Very briefly, the city manager, Sean, there talked about a lot of the same problems we have here, like turning narrow streets into one-way streets. And Mike Holmes talked about the same thing that we talk about here about businesses closing and how do we get them energized. So it's just interesting how misery loves company. So, and now we move on to city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. CDBG project, road rehabilitation. RFQs for construction management and testing will be released this Saturday. Staff is working with Hanson Brothers to provide a schedule, so we should hope to see that soon. The I&I project is approximately 80% complete. If you notice, or if anybody's asked you, there's been some sidewalk repair and a big tree pulled out in the house behind the library there. They're having trouble with the tree roots in the sewer system, so the state was kind enough to cover that for us in the project. Out of the wastewater treatment plant, the algae project broke ground last week and they started ordering in long lead items. It's going to take quite a while to get here for some things. The solar project, waiting on PG&E, of course, to on the interconnect. Had a conversation with a representative for PG&E for the government's affairs and was told that as soon as the Shady Glen substation rehabilitation was finished, we should be hooked up. Would that be accurate? Do you want to comment?
This is one of those unfortunate times where I'm burning to say something, but it's inappropriate for me to say anything.
Okay. Moving on then. For city engineer, the contract expires in August. The RFQ will also be released on this Saturday. And we'll move forward from there. That's all I have. Thank you so much. Next slide.
9B.
No.
Oh, okay. Now we get to our new clerk. Okay. City manager, do you have a presentation for a new clerk?
I think usually we just get a staff report read out and then we consider the item.
Okay. Amanda, you want to come up to the? And my staff report now.
So, we're on my name.
Yeah. Thank you. And the mic.
Yeah, this,
Oh, this is fine. I got it on there. All right, so the staff recently has advertised for the city clerk position. The staff, city received 92 applicants and interviewed the top 9 candidates. The interview panel was unanimous in ranking Amanda, and please pronounce your last name for me.
Ari.
Ari as the top candidate. Ms. Ari expressed interest and accepted the offer of employment contingent upon council action. So that's what we're doing here tonight. Colfax Municipal Code 2.12 states that the city council, upon recommendation of the city manager, appoints the city clerk. The city manager wholeheartedly recommends the city council approve Amanda Ari as a Colfax city clerk. Any questions?
Thank you. I was hoping, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, maybe you could talk a little bit about yourself, just so everyone knows, maybe a little introduction.
Yeah, I live here in Colfax with my family. We've been here almost 6 years now. My middle child goes to Colfax High. We love the community and everything that goes on here, and I'm excited to join the team and help enhance it.
any other comments?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if that be it, you can take,
Need to adopt the resolution.
Okay,
well, I think we have to take any public comment on it.
any public comment?
Well, then I'll move that we go ahead and approve the resolution.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you, man. Welcome to the city.
And this is a life sentence. You cannot leave.
He can't say that. That's not true. You can do whatever you want. We love you.
Now we go on to item 9B. Ad hoc committee assignment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and council members. We're moving into the next round of CDBG grant funding applications. And part of this funding is we need to develop an ad hoc team so we can go over what items that we want to have on our list for in our application. So I just need an ad hoc team, just 2 members, please.
I would really, really like to be on that. I'm looking at Sean because I feel like Sean probably also wants to be on that.
I think we probably all would.
Yeah.
I know.
If nobody else is jumping at the microphone, I'll take it. But if anybody else wants it, I mean, don't let me stand in your way.
No, I was going to volunteer. I was waiting for the opportunity. So I'd be interested.
Okay.
Sounds like, are we drawing straws?
Yes.
I move that we put Larry and Trinity on the ad hoc after we take public comment.
Yeah.
Any public comment? Hearing none.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
I don't think you gave Larry a chance to vote. I think Larry was not.
Next, item,
There we go.
item 10, good of the order. Starting with Sean, do you have anything good to say?
Nothing for tonight. Thank you.
I'd like to bring something up I've been thinking about for at least a year. I don't usually think that long about things, but I believe that Facebook just isn't a good enough place for us to put our meetings out. And I think that we need to own our own data. We're really dependent upon Facebook to listen to old meetings, for example. And I found not only is it kludgy to use, but I'm more concerned about the future. I think we ought to be able to have our own recording and own it and control it and not be dependent upon Facebook for our meetings. And just one of the examples is that if somebody wanted to present a comment that way, they get their comments carry as much weight as how often they're online. And so we missed some feedback in meetings because people were commenting that way and they don't post enough to have it heard. So it kind of turned up later. And I became aware of this months ago. I did speak about it. I wasn't on the council then, but I would like to have the staff prepare a report or a recommendation regarding how we could do that ourselves. And we would own the system and we would maintain it and we'd be able to provide copies if people wanted. Like the old days, we used to do that in the past. So just, I would like to see us do that.
So Larry, just for context, we actually do. We do own the recordings and we do have several copies. Facebook is only a copy. And we also noticed the trend you did about the issues with public comment. We no longer accept public comment over Facebook. So we stopped doing that. It was probably January, I think. Because we also noticed that it was becoming very problematic. So now if you'd like to submit public comment, I think at this time you actually have to come to a meeting in person or submit it ahead of time via email.
That is correct.
And I recommend that each of us have an opportunity to go out there on Facebook and try to listen to the meeting, get to particular places and back it up and position it. It's very
It's fun to read.
challenging.
It does help us get more of an audience, but outside of bringing awareness, it really, that's the extent of what it is as a tool for us. We also have the videos on the city website, which are not in any way related to Facebook. They're also on YouTube, I believe, and we have our own recordings.
Yeah, so you can go to the city website and it has a link to watch the meetings and they're all on there. Looks like we don't have the first one in March posted, but is it? So yeah, but so they are on the website, so you can find them pretty easy on there.
So this is good of the order. Really can't discuss much of it now. Do you want to put it on a future agenda for discussion or have staff make a recommendation?
Yes, that was my idea, not cause a discussion, just make an opinion on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Caroline? Any-
I don't have anything creative. Don't plant your gardens. I know it's really tempting. And I know next week you're gonna want to go out there and plant all your summer vegetables. You will kill them. Don't plant them yet. There you go. That's my advice.
Take a class at the farmer school.
That's right, go farmer school. Has to be, it's either past Mother's Day or it snowed on the blooming dogwoods. Do not put your tomatoes outside. There you go.
I have nothing tonight.
I'd like to emphasize what Carolyn said. I think that there's another 2 weeks or whatever. They extended the deadline to join the Sierra Vista Center.
To the 31st, so you have
So-
Easter to submit it. You could email it to them
Yeah.
on Easter.
So
I would suggest phoning them and letting them know it's there.
and also I encourage people we need volunteers at the Chamber of Commerce. So, volunteers are what make this community, it greases the wheels. So please become a volunteer, even if you quit 10 months later, please. Well, okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Any good of the order, moving down towards the right?
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Let's see, do I ask the public for a comment?
Yes.
Public may now comment on the good of the order.
So it's specific to items that were talked about during the good of the order.
I'm active in a nonprofit organization that has been using teleconferencing for its membership meetings for a number of years. And with different systems, currently the chapter that I belong to uses Zoom. And for public comment, it's what is required to make it work for people who are attending remotely is to have a person in the room whose sole task is to read the chat. And then they periodically let whoever's chairing the meeting know that there's a stack of comments, where they relay the comments. How the system works can be adjusted to what the group wants to do, but it does require that it has a person who that's their job is to read what's coming in remotely and convey it to the meeting, or recognize the people and let them speak directly to the meeting if they have that capacity. On Zoom, you can do that either on a smartphone or on a computer or a tablet. But you have to manage it so that everybody isn't talking at once. So it's possible to do this. It makes it makes conducting the meeting more complex, but it is doable.
Thank you. Any other comment by the public? Which reminds me that I think Zoom is going away as a free service in a few weeks. So everybody keep that in mind. It's free, but I think it ends in a few weeks.
Trent, I missed your comment. Was the good of the order on the comments that you have been made up here already?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So when we take the public comment on the good of the order, it's basically just saying, does the public want to speak to any of the items that we brought up during the good of the order?
And really quick, Mayor and Council, I don't want to speak on behalf of the city manager, but I would be very happy to co-author a staff report just from a city clerk's point of view at what best practices are for current day city council meetings.
Okay, sounds.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I'd gladly accept the help.
Any other comments on the council's good of the order?
I would just like to add, the reason I brought that up is I don't like to see us limiting comment in any respect.
wherever it is. So if people go to Facebook because they have to or want to, or they're already doing something else, I don't want to limit their comment. I don't want to shorten our meetings by taking public comment. I want public comment. So that's why I brought it up. Okay, if nothing else, meeting adjourned at 7:16.